What is up? I'm Miguel Antonio, and you are listening to the Live and Create podcast. It's where I interview artists and entrepreneurs about what it means to live a great life and create great things. And before we jump into the podcast, I'd love for you to check out my band, Run With It. Here's a clip from our song, I Need a Light.
It was the middle of the night. My only friend was the highway. I just started to drive. No direction, only miles spent. I was losing my mind. Nothing more than tears and shaking. Where the moon was so bright. We used to spin and spin. I see my darkest days, see my darkest days. I see my darkest days, see my darkest days. I need a light, so bright that the sun seems dim. I need something that will not fade, held tight like the hand of a friend. I need someone that won't run away.
If you like what you heard, make sure you check us out at Run With It Band, at Run With It Band, everywhere you follow people at, or go to runwithitband.net. It'll take you to all the different links you want to go to, and there'll be a little button you can click for booking information. Now for today's podcast.
The Live and Create podcast.
My understanding, July, I'm new in the wedding industry. It's kind of like peripheral piece of what I do, but it seems like everything kind of dips in July. Like there's not a lot as much going on. Is that your experience as well?
Yeah, so for me personally, June is pretty typically busy. Like even next year, May and June dates went like crazy,
Yeah, and I
crazy
feel you.
fast.
May and June was nuts.
And May,
On my
even
end
next
as well.
year, I keep like wanting to copy and paste myself because of how many May inquiries are coming in. And I'm like, you guys, there's so many other incredible dates on the calendar. Why still May? But yeah, July, I don't know if it's maybe wrapped around July 4th being a holiday and then people take vacations.
True.
I don't know. Because like,
Or it's just so
for-
damn hot is the
Well,
other, yeah.
that too. But for me, I mean, yeah, with July 4th, I try to take off just because my first, I think, couple years, I took weddings around the holiday, like out of state. And I just miss like, being at the pool, hanging out with friends and doing like the 4th of July traditions. So I try to just do that and not book that weekend. And then at the end of July, we take family vacation with my husband's family.
Nice.
July, I have 2 Kansas City weddings. One next weekend that I have a week off, then one more. But it's pretty slow, but I've had to tell myself, I'm like, Stace, you want to enjoy being at the pool, hanging out, and it's so hot. So I'm like, it's okay not to book.
You can soak up all the vitamin D at that point. You know,
Right,
you got
right.
all the time. Yeah, it's as far as the weddings, it kind of dips off. For me, the festival stuff is hitting hard now, which is nice. My down season in the music realm is typically like January is just dead. And so I've had a friend that always reminds me, it's like, dude, just accept that it's dead. Like, don't, because every year I'm like, how can I make it not dead? And
Well,
it's
and
like
I'm a
trying to
zero
like
chill.
shake a corpse. What's that?
I'm like a zero chill. I get reminded by so many of my friends and people around me, they're like, it's okay to relax. And I'm
Right.
like, no, I have 100% all the time. Like, it's very hard for me to chill. I do during the weeks, but I like to just know at least something is like on a Saturday or a Friday or something, and just not like have 2 solid months off. I don't know. I don't do well with that because I start pacing. I'm like, what can I do? But I know it's good. It's good to kind of like refresh and then go into the year with a super like, I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Now with that kind of like always wanting to go, is that just something that's been part of your personality, or is that something that's developed in stepping out and going, like building your own business?
I would say it's just a part of me at this point. I was kind of feel like I'm thinking back about everything I've done and wanted to accomplish and just how I am as a person. I'm a go-getter. I'm a hustler. I just I'm so motivated and driven. And I know I've had a lot of conversations with people where they're like, how do you do this? How do you do that? But it's the thing where you can't really teach drive and motivation in someone. It's just like they have it. And that's one thing I'm so grateful for being a business owner and being an entrepreneur, because I'm just like, wake up ready to go. Like, what can I do to get even 1% better on my business or help myself in whatever area that I can? Even if it is, going to the gym and moving my body every day, I try to keep that mindset and mentality like that. And I think it just trickles in all the other areas of my life. But my parents always say that I was born like right on my due date. And my mom's like, Stacy, you have been, and she was like, doctors weren't even in the room. She's like, you have been in a hurry since day one. I'm like, I was like, that makes a lot of
You're like on
sense.
time or early. That's what we're doing. Okay. Yeah, that's perfect for the wedding industry as well. As I'm learning, you got to be like, shit's got to be on time. It's got to be
Yep.
straight. So
Yep. Yep.
that's hilarious. Now, where did the love for photography start for you?
It's a love that and a passion I did not know I had at all. So I
Okay.
worked in the medical field for about 5 years. I have 2 degrees in exercise science. So that's kind of where like the health and fitness aspect of the outside, I just have a ton of education. That's what I'm passionate in as well. And so in college, I just remember trying to figure out what my path was going to be. I was interested in, anatomy, physiology, and just the health aspect of stuff. So
Mhm.
I got into cardiac rehab in as an exercise physiologist at one of our medical centers here. So I did an internship there. I was kind of bouncing back and forth during my internship, knowing that I was like, do I want to do OT? Do I want to do PT? And like PT requires way too much math, and I am not good at math. And
You
so
like the
that,
health part, not the math part so
yep,
much.
yep. So I kind of nixed out PT. There's just a lot of little things about my story on like why my journey happened the way it did. Cause I actually tore my ACL back in high school, and then I loved my PT. So then I was like, ooh, I like that. And then I was like, too much math. So then let's go to OT because I love doing that aspect of things. And then the path was for me to get on my feet and start making money. And I know you got to put in the work, you got to work your way up and all that sort of stuff. But doing the internship and then noting that like how much more school I was going to have to do to fill out the, complete the OT route, I was like, man. And so I try to do like,
How much do you really like school at that
right,
point?
because I was missing like 2 classes, I believe. And so I was like, okay, so if I take those classes, then I apply. What if I don't get in? Then I'm on another year, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I know I can do this, but I was like, what do I really love? So that threw me into cardiac rehab. Love doing that. I worked 312s, which is ideal to this day. I know we work a lot as entrepreneurs, but I've never had like like clock in 9 to 5 Monday
Right.
through Friday job ever. And
So
I'm
you're
I'm
already
happy,
kind of getting ready to be an entrepreneur in that regard. So yeah.
and I didn't know that was on my plate, and I didn't know that that was something on the horizon for me. But as I started, again, I was there about 5 years at the hospital, and just realized, I go, something about year three, I was like, something else is out there for me. I love what I do because I just want to impact one person a day. That's like what I want in a job. But I was like, I'm not like, my department had 0 windows. I'd go,
No
I'd
fun.
impact, right.
No fun at
Like
all. As
it
you
was
talk with a window like right next to you, I imagine
right, right, right.
you're like, never again.
Yes. And so it was like, loved helping patients. The patients that would come to me, it's like bypass surgery, open heart, stent. Those are like the patients that came to me. So it was really, powerful to be able to like help these people back on their feet and everything. But there
Mhm.
was just like going to the same room every day and just, yeah, there was a piece missing. So I started praying about it of like something else is out there for me. And then when I don't remember the aha moment of me being like, oh, photography is it. But I had the trainer at the gym that I went to. He's like everybody's hype man. He was like, well, what are your hobbies? What are you passionate about? I'm like, I don't know, exercise. I was like, I have no clue. And so I can't tell you how photos photography came about, but I remember the conversation of him telling me, he goes, you should go buy a camera. And I was like, the gear is so expensive. I said, I don't have the money for that. Like, I can't do that. And he goes, it's super cliche, but he goes, you're going to look back at in 5 years and wish you would have at least tried. And that sort of stuff sticks to me. Like, that's all you need to say to me to, like, motivate
Right.
me to do something. And so the next week, I took, like, people have piggy banks and all that sort of stuff. I had this big crayon that I had been putting money into probably 15 years and
Okay.
hadn't really touched it. And I was like, "Oh, let's just see how much is in it," and took it to the bank, cashed it in, and I bought my first kit lens and
How much
camera.
was
Like,
in that crayon? I can't say crown
I
correctly.
well,
Sorry.
it's funny that my husband, he'll be like, "It's crayon." I'm like,
That's what my
"Crayon,
wife does.
crayon, whatever."
She corrects me, and I can't say ibuprofen. Is that how ibuprofen?
Ibuprofen.
She's corrected me on that quite a many times, and apparently has not stuck. But yeah, how much was actually in the crown? We'll go with crown.
I think it was about a little under $2,000,
Two.
and I think a kit camera and lens together was, I think it was 1,500, 1,600.
That's
And
amazing.
so, yeah, I was like, okay, so it didn't really take a chunk out of what I was getting, and it didn't really set me back too much. And I was like, it's always the thing that things happen for a reason. And, that just been sitting there. And I'm like, oh, let's just try it out. Let's just take it and go see how much is in it. And so that kind of started me into photography. And I think our golden retriever, I think she was maybe 3, 4 months old at the time when I started. Well, before I get into that, stepped away from the hospital November 19, right before COVID hit.
Wow. Okay.
And so didn't know COVID was happening. And my husband,
Yeah.
he's also a business owner. So he owns his own insurance business.
Okay.
And so when we both were kind of starting our businesses at the same time, and then COVID hit, we were like, okay, this is interesting. How are we going to make money? How are we going to pay for groceries and gas and all that sort of stuff? But I was like, we're both kind of like minded in the way of business, or just like driven in that way
Hmm.
where we're like, we'll figure it out. And it was scary. Like, I remember having thoughts where, it's like, we might have to sell a car if we get to this point, and we might have to do this. We might have to move back into our parents' basement, like
Right.
we were figuring out
It was
stuff,
such a
but
scary time. Yeah,
it
because my
was. And
my wife had her own cleaning business at the time, and I was full time music. And yeah, then the whole world fell apart. No one wanted her to come into their house, and
right.
like obviously nothing was going on for music at that point anymore. And it's like, oh shit, what are we gonna do? Yeah, scary time.
And
And that's
it's
the best time to start something, right?
okay. And I will say, like, I grateful to say that I don't live in the fact of like something I'm fearful of doing something, or ooh, something is really scary. I look at it like, okay, that makes me really uncomfortable, but I'm going to say yes, and we're going to figure it out, and we're going to grow. And you see how, like, I truly believe, like, if I'm comfortable, or let's just say if I'm uncomfortable, that means I'm growing. So in the space of just like the last 8, almost 9 months of like my being a photographer and in this industry, it has been flipped upside down in all the good ways. And I'm just learning so much about myself and pushing myself in areas where I'm like, this is scary, but we're going to do it. And I even remember my
Absolutely.
first podcast that I was on. I was like, okay, this is really uncomfortable. I was like, this is not me, but I'm
Was
learning
it
to
in
lean
person
into
or
it.
camera
It
or
was a
like
camera, but I've learned that of when you're being recorded, my personality was changing. And then I remember after we were done, they stopped the record, and my friend, she was like, "Are you still recording?" And I said, "No." And she goes, "Yeah, you're a completely different person." And I'm like, "It's a mind thing. You just have to
it
kind of
really
drop
is?
it and just realize that it's like, well, whatever, you
That's
know?"
a previous guest on the podcast named Corey Jackson, and I believe I think it was The Voice he was on, and got up pretty far
Wow.
in The Voice, and he shared how it was. He was like, it seems ridiculous, but it's so hard to be yourself on camera. He's like, the whole
Yes.
time it was basically trying to stop doing all these other things that, like, what, this is not me. What am I doing?
Right,
And
right.
to finally find like that natural perspective. But
Yep.
so you, like,
Yes.
going back to that trainer though. So the
Yes.
trainer inspires you, which is really cool. It's amazing to have people on the way who are like trying to help you find that thing. Get $2,000 of change in your crown, which is amazing in and of itself, to buy a camera. How long between, like, so when you bought that camera, what did the process look like to grow? Because from what I understand, you had no background photography or anything from what you're saying.
Mm-mm.
So what did that look like to, like, go from your first camera to starting your own international photography business? Because
It's
that's
crazy. It's
wild.
crazy. So I feel like I have so many little backstories, again, just like
Right.
making me who I am today. I also say I never regret anything in life, all the debt and degrees, all that money. I'm like, it's fine. It's fine. We're all
It'll
going to
all be
be
fine.
okay.
It's
But
good.
it's really my work ethic and how just I am is like I grew in the space of social and just working one-on-one with people and understanding people, and I've always been that kind of way, but just being very aware of that space. It's that sort of thing that I look back and I'm like, okay, this happened and it just prepped me for where I am today, which that's why I never regret anything, because I'm like, lessons learned in every little thing that you do. But I bought a camera, and then before I get into that, so when I was interning at the hospital, I wasn't making any money, just interning right out of school. And I had a friend that danced on the dance team at Wichita State here. And she was like, hey, I know you're not making money interning. She goes, I work for a traveling dance competition. So I was not dancing. Let's just clarify that. Not dancing.
That was not a hobby you were going to turn into a business. Is
No.
that's what
I've
I hear?
never danced a day in my life, but she was like, it pays really well, and you basically fly Friday, maybe work a Friday, Saturday, and then fly back Sunday. And I was kind of going, okay, that could work with my schedule, because at the hospital I was working Monday, Wednesday, Thursdays,
And you'd
and I
be
was
going
working.
as like a trainer with them?
No, no. So this is the super random part of the job. So if you guys, or if you've ever heard of like little kids dance competitions that you can put your kids in and they dance, in front of judges, and then whatever, and they compete. Well, I basically was the girl that would run the stores, these competitions, so like where you buy programs at, t-shirts,
I
all
got you.
that sort
Yeah.
of stuff. So I would come in, and it's basically they have a venue somewhere. So we would travel from January till about, and then like nationals would be June, I think maybe into July, but I would travel almost every weekend to a new city doing that job. But
That's
then,
fun though.
yeah. And so that's where it fueled my traveling, and knowing that I'm like, wow, I truly love this, and the excitement that comes with travel. And I would pretty much be catering the food, making coffee runs for people, but
Mhm.
it was seeing new places all the time and the excitement with that. And so I get asked all the time, they're like, how did you know how to get into traveling and this and that and this? And I'm like, I have been traveling even way before photography by myself. Like I would jump on a plane 5 a.m. Fridays, go to a random city that I've never been to, meet up with a group of 10 people that I've never met, work a weekend with them, and then go back home. And so I'm just so independent in that space. And I feel
Yeah.
like that's the part of travel where not a lot of people know that about my story, and like why it's so easy for me to pack for a 2.5 day trip, go work, and then come back home.
Well,
So
and
that's,
it's funny that hearing this backstory, because that was the piece when we met at that wedding and we were all talking in the green room and looking at your Instagram. And I was like, wait a minute, you're like going all over the place. And so that I thought was a very unique thing that stood out, because most photographers I've been meeting are really great, very talented, but they're not doing that piece. And that connects with like the world of music for me in my brain, because like it's touring and going like just nonstop
mhm,
going. And it's a different kind of life, a different
yes,
kind of
it is.
passion for
It
sure.
is. Yeah, so obviously when I started out, like that's the backstory of like how traveling just was easy for me to kind of incorporate things. And I have a lot of random plain plain window pictures, from traveling years ago, that it's I feel like the biggest part in like what people say how to get into specifically the destination wedding photography space is like you've got to go to those places, get content of some sort, and then people start trusting you and knowing that it's like, oh, she travels.
Right.
Well, that's been, I feel like maybe, I don't think of it as much like this, but like maybe a little bit of a leg up on that, just because I have a lot of experience with be like, oh, I've been to that city before, and it's just super random places.
Yeah.
So, and then kind of moving forward, like when I got my camera, COVID hit. It was scary for absolutely everybody. And we didn't know what was going to happen. But I had people contacting me saying that their wedding photographer wasn't shooting just because of all this scary stuff going on. And so I took it as like, okay, this could be an opportunity for me. And I'm going to be safe. I'm going to wear my mask. I'm going to do
Mhm.
everything that we're supposed to do. But I said yes to a couple weddings that photographers canceled on their clients and then I took them. So those were like my first weddings. And it was
Hmm.
where like COVID was rough. I think it was like March, I can't, April, March, somewhere in there. It was like really, really bad. And then it kind of like dipped down a little bit and then dipped back up in the fall. Well,
Yeah,
I
it
think
was a
I,
weird thing where we all thought like all of a sudden shows started popping back on and everyone's like, let's
yes.
go. And then the world shut down again. It was so weird. Yeah.
Yeah, so with that, because you heard all these photographers having to cancel weddings and like canceling, you know, having that in contracts now and this and that and this. Well, I somehow everything and all those weddings that I had on my calendar without rescheduling. And it was, I think I had like three, to be honest. But I was like, how the heck do I keep dodging the fact that people are not canceling their weddings? Now they got a lot smaller and people just, if they had a 3-person wedding, it ended up being like only 50 people. But I still showed up to those weddings and it was a very different, interesting time, but was grateful for that. And I just kind of it just started domino effect and I just kind of leaned into it and that's where I found the passion of okay, it might be chaotic and absolutely crazy to say this, but I love the chaotic part of the wedding industry and just like what all it comes with. And I always say I thrive in chaos because I'm like, okay, this is not for everyone, but it's for me. Like I
And when
love
you
it.
say chaotic, are you talking about like just managing all the different personalities and because that's the chaotic part to me when I see like everybody. And for me, I'm a people person, so that's fine. Like I can live in that. But
Hmm.
I know some people can struggle with like I got to talk to the bride, and then I got to talk to this person, and then this person's mad about this. Is that the chaos you're talking about, or something else?
No, it's really just the dynamics from start to finish. There's things like when I come into a wedding day, I'm like, okay, here I am. I'm like a freaking tornado. I'm like, let's move the couch. Let's move this. Let's do that. And I'm just like, because I know what I want and like what I'm looking for. And I think that that's such a good quality as a wedding. I mean, honestly, a wedding vendor as a whole, just to like go in knowing you're super confident and super like you're in control of the day in many aspects. And so, there's weddings where I don't have a coordinator or planner with me, and I'm the one running the day, photographing, wrangling up everyone. But it's like not too much for me. And so even if I don't get overwhelmed, if like there isn't a whole lot of vendors on the day that are also just like right by my side, and I think that goes back to me just working really well as an individual and knowing that it's like, I got this, I can handle all this chaos. Who knows? And it's like, if something kind of dips down or goes south, my face is always like, no, it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
it's gonna be okay.
And that's
And
how you
I've,
got it, because no one wants like
right,
the planner or someone to be like, "Oh shit!" Like
right.
I've literally seen there was one caterer who got so worked up, and it was like me and the planner just kind of looked at each other, we're like, "Oh, okay." We had,
Yeah.
had to like walk off for a minute. It's like no one wants
Yeah.
that. Like it's a
Yeah.
happy day. Okay, we're all
Yep.
gonna have fun.
I know. Well, so my last wedding this last Friday, my bride, she was telling me, I remember right before we were going to do their first look. I feel like the upside of the day, there's a lot of moving parts, whether to getting ready locations, like, are they doing first looks with anyone? Details. I mean, it's like that's where my mind runs like a quadrillion miles an hour because of all the things that I'm needing to get done to then once the ceremony hits, then it's kind of like smooth sailing for like photographers. And then that's where it's always we joke because videographers, they gotta, get into gear and then they have to work a lot harder. So it's like we swap. But I had a
You
bride.
like pass the baton. Good luck.
Right.
Good
I'm
luck
like,
out there, bro.
I'm in the corner. I'll get my few dance floor photos. Like, you're out there sweating. Right before we were doing her first look, she looked at me and me and the planner were standing next to her and she was like, I just need a quiet minute. And I was like, okay, like, whenever you need time, like, just let us know. She goes, no, 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 I want you guys around me because you're actually giving me a sense of peace and like just a breath. And I hear that actually a lot from my couples, that I bring a sense of calmness, and that's just also being able to read people and understanding where it's like, do they need space? Do they not? Like, and I check in with my couples all the time. I'm like, hey, like if you need 510, like just let me know because it's a lot. And that is one thing where you can't tell someone up front, if they're having, let's say, a 350 person wedding, you can't tell them in the planning phase, hey, by the way, you will probably get overwhelmed multiple parts of the day.
Right.
But because it's like, it's something where it's like, you'll figure it out. That's what they have. I had a huge wedding too. I had those same thoughts. Now being on both sides, that's where if, I understand that, but it's a lot. And I think that not a lot of people understand that when they do have large weddings. And also it deals with personality with your couples and everything.
Hmm.
But it's like it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot going on, a lot of people pulling you in multiple different directions. And I think with me being able to be that sense of like breath of air that they need, I can kind of read that and be like, hey, I'm going to give you a little bit of time. Cause I can tell that I'm like, I know you don't think that you need this, but you need this. And I think that that's important as a wedding vendor, I guess. And just really, because it's like and I always say, I'm like, we're doing a service, but also my main goal is for my couples to have the best day of their life, not me
Absolutely.
trying
Yeah.
to push to get certain photos that they are wanting. Now I check in and ask them, hey, do you still want to do this? But it's like, I'm not going to disregard anything just because I'm like, oh, maybe they don't want that. Like I'll check in, but
Right.
it's knowing that it's like, take care of your couple. And that's one cool thing I hear after wedding days. It's like, they come to me and they're like, because of you, like I had the best day ever
Hmm.
because you just took care of us. And I think that that's important as a wedding vendor. So,
That's awesome. Well, so in that story though, you, because obviously now building a great career, like building a great portfolio at this point, right? Traveling around doing all this. How did, I'm still curious though, when you got the camera to like now doing like really cool, well done artistic photos, how did you get good? Like, and
I
how
don't know.
long did that take? What did that process look like? Just as a creative myself, because I'm like, okay, wait a minute. She had a camera and now she's like doing all these photos. It's like great stuff that you're putting out there.
Thank
Yeah, like
you.
in
Thank
that
you.
gap of the story, yeah, how did you get good at photography?
When I tell you, I sometimes go to these super cool places and I'm standing looking at this incredible view and I'm like, how the heck am I here right now? I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me. I know it's all a part of my plan and a part of my story, but I don't understand myself. And I think that's what I'm trying to like lean into and figure out. But I keep looking at the positive, like moving forward. But yeah, I remember. So going back to the golden retriever, my dog,
Okay.
when she was a puppy, I was outside of my backyard taking pictures of her and learning how to shoot. Cause I told myself, if I'm going to do this, I bought an expensive camera. If I'm going to do this, I'm not even going to touch the auto on the camera. I'm going to learn how to shoot on manual because what I was reading everywhere, looking on YouTube videos, it said, if you're going to be quote unquote calling yourself a professional, you have to learn how to shoot on manual. And I
Mhm.
was like, okay, got it, done. I won't even touch the other buttons.
Right.
And I had my dog out in the yard and my husband was, throwing toys and I would just try to capture a in focus picture and
Okay.
like trying to figure out all the dials because I don't know what they mean. People would be like, "Oh, what's your ISO? What's your aperture? What's your f-stop?" And I'm like, "I don't even know what these are. I don't know what this means." And just trying to, and looking back at like those pictures of my dog, I go, "Yeah, it is crazy because they progressively would get better and I figured out how to literally just get a picture in focus and like
Yeah.
with
So
her
you started
moving."
at like the Karate Kid, like paint the fence, like the very basic.
Right.
We're just starting here. I like that. I like that.
And then I just kept saying, like, okay, let's do it again. Cause I'm like, that one was blurry. And I'm like, I can figure this out. And then I would have to go to YouTube. I'm like, how do you get a picture in focus? Like on manual, like what settings do you have? So then I started posting those pictures on Facebook and people would say, these are so good, the blah, 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 like commenting. And I'm like, well, I have a perfect subject, but I would take her all around the city in Wichita and just take her to cool little, because I was kind of like location scouting, but also for who knows what, because I wasn't really having clients, but I was just like, oh, I'll go roam around the city. And I would just take pictures of her literally in the downtown area and I would just have her be like, stay. And she was not trained very well yet. So it was really
Right.
scary. And I would back up all by myself. And I was like, okay, I think I got it. And then I put her back on the leash. My mom was the one that told me, she was like, you should really try people. And I go, yeah, but my dog doesn't complain. Like it's great. And she goes, no, like you're really good. And I go, I don't know. We'll see. But then I feel like growing up in this area in Wichita, going, completely growing up here, going to high school, people just supported me right off the bat. And from the church that I went to and high school, like people were popping up out of nowhere saying, hey, do you do family photos? Do you do seniors? Do you do this and that and this? And I was like, sure.
Like I do
People are like,
now.
well, and they're like, what do you charge? And, I was Googling, like, what can you charge? And I was so nervous to start charging that I remember it went on for a while, but I would just tell the amount of Starbucks gift cards I had stacked up because I was telling people, I'm like, oh, just a $25 Starbucks gift card.
Right.
I was like,
So you
that's,
have Americanos for days at this point.
right.
Right.
Well, and then people would give me a $50 Starbucks gift card, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. And then it was like a $75 Starbucks gift card, and I was like, wow, this is like, I don't know. It was weird for me to understand any sort of payment because I found the passion I never knew I had. And when I say like I never got into photography because I knew I would make money, and it was such a weird transition to take people's money because
Right.
even at the first like 100, that I got like on a session, I thought I was rolling in the dough, which you do like in the beginning, but I was like, this is so crazy because I love this so much.
Yeah.
And it's so weird.
I remember the first check we got, like, because as a band, we're playing like little clubs and you get like
Mhm.
$200 or whatever. And our first tour, we drove away from like, I think it was Chattanooga, Tennessee. I can't remember what the college is out there. And it was like a check for like $2,500. And I grabbed that check. I wanted to run into the van and be like, drive, because at that point, we had never fathomed that we could make that much money. Like to
Right.
us, that seemed like, wild, and it really was just a head trip. I really felt like you said, rolling in it. Like I felt like we just stole the money at some point
That's what
where
I felt
we've
like
definitely
it.
acclimated in that regard. But like, yeah, that first time I'll never forget. I literally was like, I'm going to jump in this van and we're going to go before they try to take this money back. Let's go.
Right. One, I'm like, did they accidentally put the extra zero? Like I'm confused.
Right.
Because I think that what people, what I don't hear a lot of people talk about is when you do find a passion, and I am grateful because like it's rare when people, I wake up every single day and I'm excited to do whatever it is for my job,
Yeah.
that it's rare to have that. And I just, yeah, it's such a weird thing when you start making money off of a passion, and I know that that's basically the goal of life, but
Yeah.
it's just such a cool thing. But also to add to that story, if you've heard of Young Life,
Yeah.
so I was a Young Life leader, I think a little over 4 years, I believe. So I had started when I was a Young Life leader. And so all those girls, I remember going to camp for the first time with them. And they asked me, they said, hey, do you want to bring your camera with you? And I was like, oh, yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, high school girls are going to jump all over the fact that they're going to get professional photos,
Right.
of whatever level you're at. Like, if it's a camera, they're going to be like, yep, take my picture. And I remember we were standing, the camps were in Colorado. And so we were standing in a beautiful scenery. And I just have them like, okay, group up, whatever, we take some fun pictures. And then it changed into when we got back home, like we would go to the Kansas State Fair. And I remember having one of my friends that was starting her makeup business. I said, do you want to do some makeup for whatever girls that want their makeup done? And then I'll do their pictures. And we just, again, it's bonding with my Young Life girls too, but we would walk around the fair and I'd say, ooh, that's cool. Like, do that. Like, you guys walk with each other, laugh with each other. And then that turned into me doing all their senior photos, which was really
Right.
cool. And then
And
to this
eventually they're going to
day,
get married.
and you know how people say things come full circle? It's crazy to say that I have done a handful of their weddings. And so it's just like, wow,
That's really
things do
cool.
happen for a reason. In the moment, you have no clue what your future is going to look like, which I think is, exciting, but I thrive off the unknown, and I think that that's something you kind of have to have, especially as an entrepreneur, because you don't know what next week is going to bring. You don't know when your next paycheck is going to be. So I think that I know my story is kind of all over the place, but all those little things have
Streams that
got
all
me,
go into the
yes. And
same
I feel like the
path.
hub is me now.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
but
and I
yeah,
think
so
it's
that's
fascinating. I keep coming back to that process though, just because like I know like working, like I hire photographers, I hire videographers for everything we do in the band, and everything
Mhm.
we've worked in. And it's always fascinating to me, just someone who has like the audacity to say, I'm going to learn this thing. And
Mhm.
then they figure it out. And I think that's what's really cool about that story is where you're just like, I'm just starting right here. Cause like I used to teach like privately for a few years. And I remember always telling kids, like, we all suck when we start. Like
Yeah.
everyone like sucks when they start. It's pushing through that suck and finding, you finally got that first one that came into focus and then it moves on. And I love also just that perspective of like, you just took what was there at first,
Mhm.
and built that. I'm curious though, like, so from when you were learning to focus on
Basically.
your golden retriever, right? All the way to like your first wedding. Like how much time had passed at that point?
Maybe 8 months.
8 months. Wow. That's wild. That's
And
impressive.
that's why it's very, I mean, the chaotic part of my story is like it came at me so quickly. But
Mhm.
again, I lean into things that are difficult, are scary because I go, you know what? I'm either going to succeed or fail, and I'm going to figure that out and say that, you know, it doesn't really work out for me. I have XYZ that I can do, or I left on the hospital on good terms. So I knew that I can always go back. I
Right.
know how, I can go, apply at Chick-fil-A if I need to. Anything, I was like, I'm gonna make money and I can figure out, I'm not just gonna sit back and be like, okay, something's gonna come and hit me in front of the face. But like, I think that's the cool part of just kind of like trekking through and figuring it out.
Mhm.
And I also remember like, it was days after I got the camera, I was sitting in our living room on my laptop with YouTube up, found the best videos that I can find. And I was just sitting with my camera in my hand, being like, okay, how do I work this? And I remember my husband, he was like, hey, like, I'd like to hang out with you. And I just looked at it. I remember looking up and I was like, I want to hang out with you, but I was like, I'm not stopping until I figure this out. And that's just kind of in a nutshell, kind of how my mind works.
Yeah.
Cause I want to figure things out on my own. And like, I do ask questions because I don't know everything. And
Mhm.
I think that that's the most important thing, especially with starting anything. Like, you don't know everything, and like how to get better is asking questions. And so I love talking to people. I love just like feeding off of what, the information that the other people give me. And like I started reaching out to other photographers in the area, and I was like, hey, I know that certain people get asked a lot, but I was like, if you have an opportunity for me to come shadow you, or if you need me to hold your bags, like whatever, I would just love to come basically just watch you. And I'm a sponge when it comes to that. And I had great people right off the bat, that are still shooting to this day that, they're like, yeah, we'd love to have you, or I kind of knew them a little bit. And the opportunities just came at me. And I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, like I got to go in head first and just do things that are really scary.
Yeah.
So
Well, and that's cool
yeah.
because I feel like some people will come up with excuses all along the way. We're like, oh, I need to
Hmm.
get a degree, or I need to take this 6 month course, or I need to, as opposed to just diving in and doing the damn
Yeah.
thing,
Yep.
and
Yep.
because I'm in a process. I think I keep harping on this too because I'm in a process of learning, teaching myself what's called mixing and mastering. And it's
Hmm.
basically stuff I used to hire other people for. The goals the band has, we have to be able to turn over music much quicker now. My band run with it, and like there's literally people who go to like get degrees in this thing. But like last
Hmm.
November, I was kind of that same space where I'm like, okay, I always said I want to go into music licensing. It was like getting our original music into like film, TV, and that kind of thing. So
Hmm.
let's go. And that's first step in. I learned I had to learn this piece as well. And I'm like, all right. And it just turned into like 12-hour, 18-hour days
Yeah.
nonstop of
Yep.
like
Yep.
just insanity. And that's what I've noticed. Like, same thing. Chat GPT is kind of my big go to, and then it like
Same.
aggregates the links I need to go to and all that. But I feel like every time I actually just put my hands on the computer and start working a problem within the music, that's
Hmm.
where it expands. That's where
Yes.
my knowledge grows. And then presenting it to get feedback. I'm with a group of producers who are like incredible, like top notch
Hmm.
folks. And they'll say, even yesterday, I presented something. They're like, this is really good. Like they're kind of like, oh, you're getting there, but do this, this, and this, but here's how you do it. And I'm like, oh shit, it's good, but I'm almost there. But I guess for me, I love that perspective. And I think a lot of artists have it. And you obviously are displaying that too. Is like you become obsessed with trying to figure this thing out. And then to
Yes,
see it come
yes.
to fruition is an incredible thing.
Yeah, it's weird to say that, like, when it comes to the obsession part, that I am. And the reason people, I have my algorithm on Instagram is full of like uplifting things and just like, you got this. Like, if you want to be better, like, blah, 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 blah.
Your
Like, I
TikTok's
just
gassing
feel
you up. You're like, let's go.
right. And I'm like, that's me, that's me, that's me. But that's the kind of stuff where I fuel my mind with, and it's very helpful that it's just, I can say, like, I am obsessed with what I do. And I think that that's where the difference of somebody that's kind of, like, oh, okay, I'm going to do it for this reason versus somebody that, like, you have to be so driven and obsessed with what you're doing. And that's what sets you apart from, like, all the other percentage of the world versus, like, you becoming an entrepreneur and like being that 1% different and everything. So, yeah, I know I'm different. I know I'm wired different. I feel like I am in that lower percentage of people that just like are so obsessed and driven and everything. But I also know, I'm good about separate, I have my boundaries with work-life balance. Like I've really pulled back during the weeks, just to be able so like I can keep on top of my stuff and really go into sessions and weddings and whatever I'm doing, really like, okay, let's get it. Like I want this. I remember back in the beginning, I was taking sessions and doing shooting literally 6 days a week because
Mhm.
and you have to do that, build your portfolio, build your
Right.
clientele, but it's really neat to get to a point where you still have that same love for what you do, but it's cool to scale back a little and really focus more on what you have versus like quality over quantity. And I mean, that just comes with growth and all that sort of stuff. But I was going to say about
Good. Sorry.
about the degrees.
Yeah.
In the beginning, it took me a while for I was gone from the hospital probably 2 years, and people would ask me, they're like, what do you do for your job? And I would still say I was at the hospital and saying, like, I was like, yeah, I'm an exercise physiologist in cardiac rehab. It sounds super professional.
Right.
Like I've got my life together rather than, oh, I'm a photographer. And my husband had a talk with me and he goes, doing. He was like, you've been gone for so long. Take it off of Facebook. He was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I don't know. I just feel like I'm kind of embarrassed. I'm
Right.
embarrassed at the fact that like people don't have to have degrees to become a photographer. And I feel like it's just a downplay and like, oh, she's a photographer. But what I don't like is the fact that like whenever you start something, you feel like you have to prove to everyone else out there.
Hmm.
And that's the biggest thing where I wish I could go back and tell myself, like, literally do not care what other people think. Like, if you're passionate about it and you care about this deeply, do not care what they think.
Right.
But it's easier said than done. And I've always been confident, but I did not have confidence when it came to starting a business just because I was like, what are people are going to think I'm a loser, like,
Right. Well, that's
that
like
sort because
when I tell
yeah.
people, my wife even experienced this when we got married, where she was like, "Yeah, I always feel the need when they ask, what does your husband do? I always feel the need to say he's in a band, but like they tour and they do
But
all
like a really
like
good
a real
band.
band, like a real band." Cause she's like, and I was like, no, I started laughing. I was like, I feel the same way. Like like where we're at, we live in the like ultra suburb. We're like way out in the boondocks. And so if I meet people, it's like everyone's like either military or, engineers or whatever. It's like, what do you do? You're in a band. Cool.
Cool.
Cool, bro.
Cool.
And it's
Cool.
like resisting the urge to be like, so now I've actually found joy though, where I just kind of say that and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I've found that over time, they go check out the band. I've had multiple people now come back to me like at the gym and be like, I listened to your guys' stuff. Oh my God. Like you guys are real. And I was like, yeah, yeah. So that's been like the new, like fun part, but I get it. There's
Yeah.
times I'm like, I'm in a band.
Yeah. And it's crazy too that I've had that where, I meet people wherever that may be and people go, like if we're traveling somewhere or whatever, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a wedding photographer. They're like, oh, cool. And then they're like, oh, what's your Instagram? And they look it up and they go, oh, wait, and it's like,
That's a
I,
good feeling when they
it is.
underestimated you and then they're like, oh, we're talking about a different thing than what I thought
Right.
we were talking about.
Well, and I just, I'm so like, I love people saying that to me, like, it's so nice, so kind, but, like, at the same time, I just hate the fact that we have to prove
Mhm.
ourselves to, like, other people, and then it's like all of a sudden people's eyes light up and you have way more credibility behind you because people are like, oh yeah, they're actually not a joke and it's not just a small little business. But I also have gotten the same thing where, my husband will be the one that will go places. He was like, hey, do you know my wife's like a photographer and like a really good photographer? And I'm like, stop it. Stop. But he was like, you never talk about yourself. He was like, someone's got to. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that is true. I typically will go in, a group of people if it's not in wedding industry or wedding or whatever, and he's the one talking about me, and I'm like, that's me, and he's like, come on, like, it's like the little kid, like, come on, talk about yourself. But it's hard because also with just everything, it still blows my own self away, the fact that I'm doing this. And I will tell you a story about someone I met. Or no, not that well, she hosted one of my very first workshops that I went to. And she told her story where she had been doing it, in high school, didn't go to college. She's a very successful photographer, but she told us the story about how she was on a plane ride going to a destination wedding, and she was sitting next to, like, an older man, 16-year-old her on an airplane at 16 or 17. And she said, the guy asked, oh, where are you headed? Probably thinking, I'm just going to go visit, mom and dad somewhere, whatever. And she said, I'm a photographer. And then she said, and then right after that, I proceeded to like quickly try to pull up my work and prove myself to this
Yeah.
guy that I'm basically really good and I'm worthy of having something great like this. And I do make money and this and that and this. And then she goes, why did I feel like I have to do that? Why do we feel like we need to prove ourselves to random people we're probably never going to see again? But I think that's the thing where, again, if I could go back and tell myself just starting off, like, just be confident. Be
Mhm.
confident in what you're starting. And even if it is only a little hobby, like, who cares? Like,
Yeah.
if you're happy doing it, that's all that matters.
Well, it's something I'm starting to experience because I feel what you're talking about, like I
Hmm.
explained all along the way. And some of the new strategies we have as a band, I found myself trying to defend it to people
Hmm.
around me. But then I found a community of people where I don't like I say what I'm doing and they're like, "Oh yeah," and they build on it.
Yes.
And it
Yes.
hit me. I was like, I don't have to convince anyone else. I'm just in
Hmm.
the wrong room.
Yep.
And that's been
Absolutely.
kind of it's kind of blew my mind. I feel like I've learned that lesson way too late in life at this point, but
Nah.
I'm trying to take it in because I'm like, "Oh man, I'm starting to meet more and more people as I just say what I'm trying to do and my strategies. I'm meeting more and more people who are like, "Oh yeah." And this and building on. I'm like, I've been in the wrong rooms and I need to. So,
Right.
and I encourage in a way I say it to encourage myself to stay on that path, but anyone else listening too, in any endeavor, it's like, if everyone around you doesn't get it, it doesn't mean you're wrong necessarily. Right. It just
Absolutely.
means you're probably in the wrong room. And it's just like,
Right.
we learned that with, pricing, it's like, if a lot of times it's not that people won't pay it. It's just, you're talking to the wrong people. And that's
Mhm.
what we
Yep.
discover where it's like I was saying a price that no one wanted anymore. But then all of a sudden we scratched the surface of a different clientele and
Yep.
we're like, oh, they had no problem. In fact, we probably should have said more because they said yes too quick. And you're
Right.
like,
That's it?
wait a
Okay.
minute. And then now I have friends who charge like double what I'm trying to charge, triple what I'm trying to charge, and they get it paid all the time too. And I'm like, I just need to keep elevating like where I'm going and the people I'm surrounding myself with
Mhm.
if this is the path I want to go.
Yeah. Well, and what's cool about all that too is there's different circles for everybody because I have friends in the industry where they don't necessarily want to get into more like even more luxury weddings. They are
Right.
happy, and
Exactly.
I don't want to say any specifics about any certain wedding because they're all beautiful in, their own way and what the couple wants. But I have friends that are like, nope, I am really content with this type of wedding. Now, me, I'm like, that's not my favorite. But that's why this industry is so widely diverse and different because there's people that are getting married at a courthouse or in a backyard versus somebody that goes extravagant and like goes across the world and rides in camels and like fireworks. it's just it's so different. And so I think that that's cool about finding what your love is and where that should be at. And then, like knowing it all just kind of trickles into knowing your worth and what you bring to the table. And I also remember a phone call that I had with a bride last year. She ended up booking me. So I'll start off by saying that. But I was on the phone with her and her mom, and she knew. She was like, I want to book you. Like, no questions asked. Um, but her mom, just not understanding the industry, she goes, okay. And I had already sent them my pricing, and we had talked about it on the phone. And I was going through, like, this is what comes with me in my basically all inclusive package. Cause that's kind of how I run things now. I just kind of say, this is what comes with me, all day coverage, and people love it. And it's working for me. But her mom was kind of like, okay, well, what else comes with this price? And I straight up, and that was the first time I had been asked on a phone call where I was like, ooh, I think I need to practice like my pitch a little more on like how to sell myself. Cause I was like, well, my expertise in the field, like but I didn't really have anything else to say with that. I was just like, it's pretty much because I can do a wedding with my eyes closed. Like your experience comes with me and who I am and what I bring to the table on wedding days.
Mhm.
And I always say, like, that is, I know it's cheesy to say, but like it's my superpower that I
Yeah.
can show up on wedding days because you can't copy and paste my personality, And so I think that that's where, having a great service, but great photos, but also the experience you give your couples is huge.
Right.
And so like people hire me because I bring a lot of energy to the room, and like I know how to read people and take care of people. And like there's so much that comes with that. But after that phone call, I felt so sweaty. And I was like, I went upstairs and I was like, that was so uncomfortable. I was
Yeah.
like, but me right after, she's like, I'm so sorry for that. My mom just has a lot of questions. She doesn't understand. I'm showing her your Instagram, your photos, your portfolio, all that sort of stuff. And I was like, it's okay, but still hadn't gotten a yes. She was like, I'm going to try to basically convince her that like there's no other option but you.
So now
It,
you got the bride selling mom on
right,
this. You don't have to sell it. Like the bride already wants you there. And I mean, it's the
right.
bride's wedding, right?
Yeah, yeah. But then I
That's
also,
great.
so I just did their wedding and it was so beautiful, so great. But I want to let you know that on the wedding day, specifically both sides of the parents, and I mean, I just kept going, like her mom and dad, they kept coming up to me. I think there was 4 different times on the wedding day, just like little things here and there to say, hey, we really appreciate you. Hey, you're doing great. Hey, you're doing this. Like just little compliments here and there. And by the end of the night, and I always do my rounds at the end of the night and say, whoever I had contact with, whether that's, and this is a little marketing tool that I try to tell people to. And what is huge about running your own business is taking the time, even though it's an hour after the wedding day and you want to go home, it's midnight, you're tired. I still will make my rounds to every single person I talk to, bridesmaids, groomsmen, any vendors, anything, and just say, hey, like it was great working with you, or hey, you looked absolutely beautiful today. Like you're amazing. Thank you so much. I said this to the grandma one time, and grandma's like, I didn't do anything. And I said, no, no, just thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being you,
Sounds like a
And
grandma. Like, I don't
she
do
looked at
shit.
me, she's like, I literally just, I barely talked to her, but still, it's that sort of thing. But after that wedding night, when I was saying goodbye to the parents, I remember the mom specifically just kept hugging me, and she was like, you are so good at your job. You are so good. You are meant to do this. And I looked and I was like, it's been a year since we talked, but that is exactly why I know that I am where I should be at. And just knowing your worth, I think, is where it should be at. And knowing that there are people out there, like you said, and that will pay. Some people, they won't, but like you will find your clientele. And that's the cool part. So I think I lit those little comments here and there. That's what I live for, because I'm like, okay, I'm right where I'm supposed to be. And like, it's cool.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I think as you build, like there's always a season of just yes, yes, yes. We're gonna do
For
that.
sure.
Where, like, okay, and building. But then over time, I think as you build a creative business, a business in general, I think you have to start saying no, no, no more,
Yep.
and
Yep.
start really just saying, like, what you said though in that meeting, it's like they are paying for your expertise. They are paying
Mm-hmm.
for your persona. They are paying for that. And again, the people who get that will pay for it, And I think, I don't know if you found, like, in switching So I did this as we have, as a band, my band Run With It, as we've tried to grow and understand our worth. There was a season where after I said that's what we were going to do, I took a thing for less. And immediately when I said yes, I regretted it. And I just realized like the value, and it wasn't even like we're better than this, whatever, is more just like the lower paying gig demanded more from us and didn't
Yes.
bring the level of appreciation that the higher paying gig did. And that's where I started. I was like, interesting. It's like we're actually getting paid more and more now for playing less and less time just because I'm guessing it seems like they value what it is we do and what we offer.
Hmm.
And that was kind of it blew my mind, like as going through that process. And then
Yeah.
when I said yes to two things at the same time, one of them ended up getting canceled. I was like, whoo, okay, I feel better. No, we're not doing it.
Man,
And I was like, we're not doing that anymore, yeah, it's interesting in
let's take a
understanding your
moment.
value.
Let's take a moment. And I know we've talked a lot about me, but like you guys are so incredible. Like I want to let you know that what you're doing is absolutely insane in all the good ways. But and you are, I mean, I've had lots of bands, live
Uh,
bands at weddings. I have never seen the actual band members out on the dance floor with everyone as much as you guys. And I just kept, I'm like, dude, that is so cool. Like, in my mind, have this core memory. I think it was, I'm pretty sure it was you. It was the song where it's like, where everyone goes down to the floor. I should know
Fireball.
this.
Yeah.
And you were like on the floor singing, doing your thing. And I'm like, that is so cool. And
That's
that's the
always a
sort of
fun
thing
moment.
too
I enjoyed
that
that.
like with vendors that actually don't just show up and just do the job, like lean into what you're doing. And
Right.
that's how I can see with you guys, like even just that passion and everything that you guys bring to the table is so cool because you just lean into everything. Like the amount of ridiculous videos I have on dance floor, it's just like jamming, doing my thing because I'm like, I love this. And I know I've
And I
gotten
think you
more.
guys are the first photographers I had seen jump out into the crowd and actually like during it.
I love
And I
it.
was like,
I'm
that
like
that was
weaseling my
slick.
way through.
What was the other photographer who has the education platform? I'm for
Sam.
blank. What's that?
Sam.
Sam. Yeah,
Sam. He is so awesome. Shoot the Veil
that's
is his
right. Yeah. Okay. That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, and to let you know too, so that is a different band. So I tour and work and write with Run With It, which is a different band than what you saw that night.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that band is twice on Sunday, and that's Amanda.
Oh, yes.
Have you met Amanda Alvarez? I was blanking on her last name. Yeah, she's the one who kind of leads that whole
Yes,
crew.
yes. I did talk to her at the end of the night.
Yeah, and she's awesome. I'm kind of a cog in their machine. They have an incredible machine. So I started with them like doing like rap and some singing with them
That's so
about a year
cool.
ago. But yeah, just to clarify which
That
what
is
all
good
that is going
clarification.
on. But yeah, that it is a fun time. And we were just like I remember because with Run With It, we jump out in the audience, do that kind of stuff
I
all the
love
time.
it.
And they
Yeah.
hired me to do this wedding band thing for the first time. And I was like, I don't know what's expected here. Cause like for rock shows, we jump on tables and shit and we're going wild. Like, I don't know. And then it was Austin as one of the other members. I think it was my first or second wedding with them. And he jumped out and started doing all sorts of crazy
That's
shit.
so
I was like,
awesome.
I guess we can do this. Let's go.
That's
And
so
so
awesome.
ever since then, it's like last week we were jumping on like chairs. I stay away from the tables now. The venue tends to frown on
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. Well, and I remember too, I have pictures of guests and like the bride and groom and the videos I got of like band members just really like leaning in and just interacting
yeah,
so much. And I know that that's what live bands are all about. Like you interact with the crowd and like read the crowd, but just how much interaction, there's like no barrier in a good way, like between you and all the guests, which I think is really cool.
yeah, that crew has a lot of talented people in there, and they're all about jumping
I
out
always
there doing
say,
that.
I always say if I could have any talent, it would be to be able to sing. And I know, roughly I can't. Like I was in show choir in high school and love show choir. I love everything, but I always joke and say that I was like the back row curtain puller singer, like in the very back. But
Gotcha.
if I can do anything, I would love to be able to just sing because I think that's so cool. Like whenever I see you guys, I'm like, holy, that is
Well, that's
so
the next
cool.
step. Then you start a band and do
Sure.
do your whole thing with all
We're
that
gonna
free
have to
time. All
we're
that
gonna have
free
to
time
lip
you have,
sync.
I'm
Yeah,
sure,
yeah,
at that
yeah.
point. Well, you have an awesome story of tenacity and just making things happen, even down to, I asked about your international stuff. And I remember you saying that day, I remember you saying, like, I just went there and did it. I just flew
Hmm.
somewhere, took pictures, and showed people I was here. And I was like, I love it. I love it like that. I think that's the kind of mentality that it takes to build something unique and to build something successful in the creative world. And so that's really
Hmm.
cool. Last two questions of the podcast. So right now, how would you define living a great life?
I would say for me, it's, I feel like I'm living that great life just because I can wake up every day and I'm excited about what I do. And even if it's, I mean, me out in the yard this morning, I was just like, soaking in the sun, like looking around. I'm like, this is really cool. The fact that I have a job that I love so much and it allows me to step away and be outside when I want to be outside and, spend time with friends and family and just make time for things that matter. And I can create my own schedule, but just I feel like doing things that you truly enjoy and making sure that like, your cup is filled. And, when I always say it's like I'm doing a service and I'm doing somebody's wedding, but after I leave that, like my cup is filled. And I know that so it's like just really being able to do the things I love and not feeling like I'm trapped in a little square and just like going to do what I need to do and paying my bills and everything, but allowing me to just have the extra freedom to live life and enjoy life. And
That's
whatever
awesome.
that means for everybody is different, but I think it's really neat and just to be able to take care of myself first and foremost, and then that kind of pours into my business and everything else that comes with that.
That's cool.
I think that answered your question.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I like that perspective of like making sure your cup is filled. Like I think that's when you know you're in the right place where it's not
And
taking away.
I'm a very simple gal when it comes to a lot of other things where it's like the little joys in life. Like me going to get Starbucks, after the gym. I have an espresso machine at home, so I don't do it a lot, but like, I can get a coffee today, and that sort of stuff. And I just I keep myself very grounded and I always say that no matter where this little business takes me, like always just, stay kind and nice to people and just stay humble. And that kind of just fills into the fact that I focus on like the little things. And I have big dreams, like big goals, big dreams, but just kind of keeping yourself grounded and knowing like don't all let this consume your whole life. Like being a photographer is not 100% who I am. Like there comes a lot of other things with me, but I think that that's just shaped me into how I am today. And yeah, just taking time for the little things and just remembering that things will grow and get bigger, but just don't ever forget about all the other stuff.
That's awesome.
So
Well, last question. Right now, how would you define creating great things?
these are hard questions. These should be easy, but creating great things. I would say, oh, this is making me think. I personally create the way I create is because kind of like what I talked about is I pulled back on a lot of other things to be able to do like, quality over quantity. But I think that's where I, get asked all the time where people go, how do you not get burnt out? How do you do this and that and this? Well, it's because I'm like, I don't want to just take jobs and take things just because it's money and be like, oh, it's a quick money here and there. Like, I want to do things that fill me up and everything. So I feel like, what was the question again?
How would you define creating great things?
I would say making sure when you, as a creative like me, I pull back when I need to pull back and then I kind of shoot into things when I need to just take things head on. And like it's okay to say no to things and it's okay to realize, okay, this doesn't bring me as much joy. Cause again, there's so many people out there, so many things out there, and if it's not meant for me, I'm like, hey, here's 10 recommendations. But that's how I continue to, I feel like, stay on top of my game and just do the things that I do because I don't take just anything and everything. And, I want to make sure it's filling me up. And that's how I really just create what I create. Another thing I really do is when I travel for destination weddings and destination things is I try to tack on, depending on location, I try to tack on free shoots when I'm there. if that's 1 or 3, I try to do things to maximize my time in those areas.
That's a really
And
cool idea.
I also, know that it's like, when certain people get to a point, it's kind of, it's really easy to sit back and be like, things will come to me.
Hmm.
But my mindset and my mentality is I'm going to go get it. Like, don't ever expect things to just come to you. Like, you've got to work hard for it. So, and this example always comes to my mind. One of my New York weddings I had last year, I went and I tacked on 3 different shoots on top of me already being there.
Nice.
And they were just like less than hour shoots, but I get on Instagram, I dive in deep, and I find people that I'm like, ooh, and I slide in, I'm like, hey, would you like to model for me? It's just your time. Like, all I ask for is maybe a tip. Like, sometimes people do, some people don't, because again, it's your time and it's great. But then I always say, I'm like, you get all the free photos. The amount of weddings I have gotten off of one of the photo shoots that I've done, people are like, hey, I saw these
Hmm.
photos, and they send them to me and they're like, I love this. And I'm like, little do people know that that was a free shoot that I did. But I think that that's important about the creativity, is not always doing the paying jobs, but understanding like, do the free stuff, because sometimes that free stuff will fuel you more
Hmm.
because you want it. Like, you're going to get it. And so I'm really good about that. But then again, I don't always do that, because sometimes when I go places, I'm like, I just kind of want to do the wedding, do the thing, and then come back home. But I've already started reaching out to a couple of trips that I have coming up. It's like, okay, I think I'm ready to get creative. I'm ready to do that. So I've already started deep diving into Instagram, finding models.
That's smart.
And
We have a tour, a West Coast tour coming up in the fall. And right now we're still building the shows itself, but I love that where I'm going to steal that strategy as
hey, go
as
for
we're
it.
out on the road and capitalize as much as possible. Well,
Yeah.
let people know how they can connect with you, hire you for their next big destination wedding.
Well, you can slide in anywhere, which means, Instagram, but then I always kind of push people back to my website, but stacibrucksphoto.com. You can inquire through my contact form, or again, you can always just, you know, anywhere. Facebook, Instagram, I'm on all the platforms. I kind of neglected YouTube a little bit, but we're going to start getting better about that. But it's a lot. It's a lot of platforms to have to
There's so
navigate,
many.
but
I just gave up on X. I decided I could only do so many platforms, so I was like, all right, right now, I
I
was
know.
like,
And
I
really
can't I
into
can't
social
do it.
media. So
Yeah,
sometimes I'm like, okay, I have energy for this and this, and then I kind of fall off on YouTube. But we'll get there. We'll get there.
it's all progress. It's all
Yeah,
progress.
it is. It is.
That's awesome. Thanks for making the time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Live and Create podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure you subscribe and leave a comment or a review.
The Live and Create Podcast.